Did you see, like, was there any moment that you're seeing like, hey, they're really trying to ask questions that are going to put me in a negative light, or try to put myself in a situation I'm uncomfortable in? Like, was that ever a sense on your part, or only when it came out?
In 2018, they were trying to sell this to CNN. And that was the time when they came to us and they showed us all of the trailers and everything that, I mean, in those trailers, what it said is, here's all these people that are doing all these horrible things to these animals, but there's one person who's speaking out against it, and it's Carole Baskin.
Yeah.
And so that was the whole pitch of their film. And CNN didn't buy it. And so they apparently sold it to Netflix.
Yeah.
After they sold it to Netflix, and we didn't, know that there had been any change in what the film was going to be, they came back and started asking an awful lot of questions about my husband, Don Lewis.
Yeah.
And my husband, my he doesn't like to be called my current husband. He likes to be called my last husband. My husband, Howard Baskin, said, "Why are you asking all of these questions about Don Lewis?" And they said, "Well, the bad guys always make up stuff about you guys. And they've been saying for years that she killed Don. And so we just want her to be able to put that to rest." Yeah. And so I answered everything that they asked me about it. If you look at, or if you ask somebody to sit down and watch Tiger King, watch it all the way through, sit down afterwards and say, why do you think Carole killed her husband? Because I guarantee you the vast majority of people who watch it come away thinking that I killed my husband. They can't tell you why, because there's nothing in there that I said or did. No. But what they did do that I thought was, it was brilliant from a filmmaker's perspective to be able to twist something so much, is they did line up all of these people who didn't know anything about Don, saying that they thought that I had killed him. And then they would cut to some slow motion, angry look of me looking into the camera, being all stern. And these were shots that they took where they would ask me, walk down the street toward the camera. And we would do this over and over and over. And it's like, on the 400th time that we're doing this, I'm looking at them like, for crying out loud, have you not got the film that you need of me walking down this road? So now I'm looking angry into the camera. And that's the shot that they have. All of these people are saying, she killed her husband, she killed her husband, she killed her husband. It's not anything that I'm saying. It's because they're repeating it over and over again into your psyche. And you're looking at this angry woman on the screen and you're like, yeah, I think she did. And so there's this confirmation bias that once you have been tricked into believing something, especially if you have been involved in sharing like all of these memes and all of these hateful things that people were saying during that period of time, if you go back and you find out the truth later, you can't admit it to yourself. You have to dig your heels in, no matter what the evidence is to the contrary, so that you don't look like you were an idiot for being involved in the first place. So I think it's going to be really hard for people to ever get past that first impression that they had.
Is there any part of you that wants to change people's mindset with that? Or are you just at the point where you know yourself the truth and that's all that matters?
From the very beginning, I felt like it really didn't matter what other people thought of me. Yeah. But it matters from a perspective of what we do next. And what we have to do right now is end the cub petting, because we're going to lose the tiger in the wild if we don't stop this captive breeding that is creating this legal smokescreen for illegal trafficking of cats. Yeah. And when we're trying to ask China to phase out their tiger farms where they're actually farming these cats for their parts, they look at us at CITES and say, you don't even know where your tigers are in the United States. At least ours are on government sanctioned farms. And they're right. We don't know where they are. Yeah. So if people are associating the person that's leading the call to end captive breeding as being a murderer, that really makes it hard to get that passed. And so I think they've done a huge disservice to the entire planet, because we're all going to lose the tiger if people don't take action on this right now.
What do you think the numbers are? Just a broad number of how many of these farms are in throughout the, I would say even North America, because obviously you brought Canada to light, North America. How many farms do you think roughly are out there?
There's estimated to be somewhere around 4,000 tigers in the wild.
Okay.
In the United States in 2004, USDA did the first ever count of tigers. And when they do a count, they just reach out to everybody who has a USDA license and says, how many tigers do you have?
Yeah.
It's not like they go count
Yeah,
them.
of course. Yeah.
But back then in 2004, there were 5,000 tigers. Those 5,000 tigers were in USDA licensed facilities, which means that the people were either supposedly exhibiting the animals or breeding the animals. You have to have a USDA license for that. Yeah. Of those, I think there was somewhere in the neighborhood of, I forget, something like 3,500 facilities. Only 200 of those are the big accredited zoos. So the rest of them are places like you saw in Tiger King, like Joe Exotic and Doc Antle and Mario Tabro and all of these places. I don't know that there's ever been a count anywhere else in the world as far as how many of these cats there are. And there's never been a count, even in the United States, of how many are privately owned as pets. We don't find out about them until they're wandering loose in Houston or Dallas or Florida or wherever they escape from. The tiger farming industry for their parts has been very popular in China since the 90s. And there's estimated to be somewhere between 6,000 and 8,000 tigers in those farms. And in Laos, I think there are, I couldn't give you a really good, I know it's in excess of 1,000 tigers in Laos that are being bred for that.
So these are all government regulated or run in China?
They're not government run, but they are run with the full knowledge of the government. Okay. So what happens in these areas where they're farming the tigers for their parts, they're counting on the tiger going extinct in the wild. And as long as you are driving the demand for these tiger parts, which would be things like tiger teeth and tiger...
There's always going to be a black market.
Yeah, and the black market is actually for people who can afford the premium product, because nobody wants an inbred cage-raised tiger product. They want the wild, premium, fierce, virile animal. So they're counting on those tigers, those last 4,000, being completely wiped out through poaching, and then they'll have the market cornered on those parts. And so they're just
so sad.
biding their time.